The afternoon sun hung quietly over the highway, the kind of warm, golden light that reminded Daniel Harper of the summers he used to spend with his father many years ago. Back then, life felt slower. People waved to neighbors. Doors stayed unlocked. And kindness, well, kindness felt like the most natural thing in the world. Daniel was 38 now. Life had taken a few hard turns since those easy days. He worked long hours repairing heating systems and small appliances around town. The pay wasn't perfect, but it was honest work. What mattered most to him was his 9-year-old daughter, Emily. Emily had inherited her mother's gentle smile and curious eyes. After Daniel's wife passed away 4 years earlier, it was just the two of them learning how to move through life together. Some days were heavy. But most days, they found small joys: pancakes on Sunday mornings, quiet bike rides in the park, and long talks before bedtime. That afternoon, Daniel was driving home after finishing a repair job outside the city. The road was quiet, stretching through fields that shimmered softly in the heat. Then, in the distance, he noticed something strange. Smoke. Dark smoke curling into the sky. His foot instinctively lifted from the gas pedal. As he got closer, his heart began to pound. A red sedan had crashed hard against the roadside barrier. The front of the car was crushed. One side of the hood was bent upward, and flames were beginning to lick the metal near the engine. Daniel pulled his truck over without thinking twice. He jumped out and ran toward the wreck. Inside the car sat a woman, slumped sideways in the driver's seat. Her long blonde hair had fallen across her face. There was a small streak of blood along her cheek, and her arm hung weakly near the door. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Daniel called gently. No answer. The fire behind the hood crackled louder. Daniel tried the door. It resisted at first, bent from the impact. He pulled harder, using every bit of strength he had from years of lifting toolboxes and furnace parts. With a loud creak, the door gave way. Carefully, very carefully, he reached inside. "It's okay," he said softly, even though she could barely hear him. "You're safe now." The woman stirred faintly. Her breathing was shallow. Daniel slid one arm behind her shoulders and another beneath her knees. She felt surprisingly light as he lifted her out of the damaged car. The flames were growing now, snapping sharply in the afternoon air. He carried her several yards away and gently laid her on the grass beside the road. For a moment, everything became quiet again. The woman blinked slowly. Her eyes were pale blue, unfocused at first. "You're all right," Daniel reassured her calmly. "Help's on the way." He had already called emergency services while running toward the crash. The woman tried to speak, but her voice came out as little more than a whisper. "Thank you." Daniel gave a small, reassuring smile. "You just rest." Within minutes, the distant sound of sirens filled the air. Paramedics arrived quickly, surrounding the scene with careful urgency. One of them approached Daniel. "You pulled her out of the car?" Daniel nodded. "Yeah, it looked like the fire was spreading." The paramedic glanced toward the smoking vehicle and then back at Daniel with quiet respect. "You probably saved her life." Daniel looked down at the ground modestly. He hadn't thought about saving a life. He had simply seen someone who needed help. And his father's voice, echoing from years ago, had always told him something simple. When someone needs help, you help. As the ambulance doors closed, the woman inside briefly opened her eyes again. For a moment, she looked directly at Daniel. It was a look filled with gratitude, and something deeper. Then the ambulance drove away. Daniel stood there for a few seconds longer before returning to his truck. By the time he arrived home, the sky had turned soft shades of orange and pink. Emily was waiting on the front porch, swinging her legs over the steps. "You're late today," she said with a playful grin. Daniel smiled. "Yeah, something unexpected happened." That evening, while they ate spaghetti at the small kitchen table, Daniel told Emily about the accident. Her eyes grew wide. "You saved her?" Daniel shrugged gently. "I just helped someone who needed it." Emily nodded thoughtfully. After a moment she said something that made Daniel smile even more. "Mom would have done the same thing." He looked down at his plate quietly. Yes, he said softly. She would have. Life continued the way it usually did after that. Work. School. Groceries. Laundry. Simple routines that slowly stitched ordinary days together. But about 3 weeks later, something unexpected arrived in Daniel's mailbox. A court notice. His stomach tightened as he read it. Months earlier, Daniel had received a traffic citation during a stressful morning rush. Missing the court appearance had caused the issue to grow more serious than he expected. Now he was required to appear before a judge. For most people, it might not have been a huge matter. But for Daniel, every dollar mattered. Any serious penalty could make life harder for him and Emily. The morning of the hearing arrived quietly. Daniel wore his cleanest shirt and drove downtown. The courthouse was an old building with tall windows and polished wooden floors that creaked softly with every step. Inside the courtroom, everything felt formal, serious, almost intimidating. Daniel sat quietly until his name was called. He stepped forward respectfully. Then the judge entered. The moment she sat down at the bench, Daniel felt something stir in his memory. He looked up. And suddenly, his eyes widened slightly. It was her. The woman from the crash. The same pale blue eyes. The same long blonde hair, now neatly tied back. Judge Laura Whitmore. For a brief moment, recognition flickered across her face too. But she remained composed, calm, professional. Daniel stood silently, unsure what to say. Judge Whitmore reviewed the file in front of her. Then she looked up. "Mr. Harper," she said gently. Her voice was the same one that had whispered thank you beside the highway. The courtroom remained quiet. She paused for a moment. Then she spoke again. "Before we proceed, I want to say something." The room shifted slightly as people listened. 3 weeks ago, she said calmly, "I was involved in a very serious car accident." Daniel lowered his gaze modestly. "A man pulled me from that vehicle moments before it caught fire." She looked directly at him now. That man was Mr. Daniel Harper. A soft murmur moved through the courtroom. Judge Whitmore continued with the same calm dignity. "Mr. Harper didn't know who I was. He didn't ask for recognition. He simply helped someone in danger." She closed the file slowly. In a world that can sometimes feel rushed and indifferent, kindness like that matters. Daniel stood quietly, feeling slightly embarrassed by the attention. She then returned to the matter of the case. After reviewing the details, she spoke again. "Considering Mr. Harper's clean record, and his character, which I've personally witnessed, this court will reduce the penalty to a minimal fine." Daniel exhaled softly, relief washing over him. But the judge wasn't finished. "And Mr. Harper?" He looked up. "Thank you again." Their eyes met briefly, not as judge and defendant, but simply as two people who had crossed paths in an unexpected moment of humanity. That evening, Daniel told Emily the whole story. Her mouth dropped open. "The judge?" Daniel laughed softly. "Yeah, turns out life has a funny way of circling back." Emily leaned her head against his shoulder. After a moment she said something simple, but wise beyond her years. "See, Dad? Being kind always comes back." Daniel smiled gently, staring out the window as the evening sky faded into quiet stars. Maybe Emily was right. Because sometimes the smallest moments of kindness quietly shape the biggest chapters of our lives.